Angus Young, how you doing?
Good, Becko.
The Offspring.
How's it going, Becko?
Dave Grohl, how you going, mate?
Good, man.
Pete, it's been a long time coming.
Oh, Becko, hasn't it indeed?
We go inside the dressing room, speak to the biggest names in music,
Keith Richards, the Rolling Stones.
and crack open their esky.
That's exactly how I imagined you, by the way, sitting opposite me with a vodka and orange.
You're a discerning chap. This is The Rider.
Hey, it's Becko. Welcome back to The Rider. Now, last episode, it was such a great chat with Luke Steele from Empire of the Sun. Their new album, Ask That God, is out now, and I've been listening to it non-stop for the last few weeks. Such a bloody great album. And Luke really made it clear that it's an album we almost didn't have. I mean, he was quite okay with walking away from the project. He, in fact, did, really. So if you missed that chat, go back right now on all platforms and have a listen to Empire of the Sun on The Rider. I want to mention quickly Jimmy Barnes. We've been talking about the Cold Chisel Tour coming up, the big 5-0 coming up in October, but it was about a week ago where Jimmy said, you know, bad news, flown back from New Zealand. He had some hip surgery about a year ago, and that's more or less flared up again. So he's had to go back into surgery, and I think he's just come out. Jane has been looking after him, as always, with plenty of great food. And Jimmy and Jane, we're thinking about you and glad you're on the mend.
This is The Rider.
This week on The Rider, this is a real cracker. I've been waiting for this to come out for months, weeks. Now, we know Powderfinger, Bernard Fanning. Imagine if you cross that with Something for Kate. You would get this. Fanning Dempsey National Park. The album The Deluge is out now. A few of the singles came out but pre-release, including this one. Disconnect. And it's a very diverse album.
Here comes the king.
King of Nowhere, one of the highlights of Fanning Dempsey National Park, The Deluge, which is out now. And by the way, congratulations to both of you. The album has been out for a bit over a week and it went to number 2 in the ARIA chart. I got Bernard Fanning and Paul Dempsey here in front of me. Hey guys, congratulations. How are you?
Well, thanks, Becko. How you doing?
Mate, doing really well, and it's great to see your faces after so much teasing that's been going on the last couple of months with your new project. I saw it come up on Instagram, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And it seems like a really great move because you both know each other so well and have crossed paths so many times.
It's been fun. I'm actually amazed that we've kept it a secret as long as we had, because we told plenty of friends who are in the music business, and I'm surprised they all kept their traps shut, to be honest.
Well, especially when you're touring as well, so there's a lot of moving parts that come up with that. But so was this pretty much something you went off and did? You told your managers and then went to the record company after that?
Well, we just started throwing ideas at each other first, and then once we kind of established, I don't know, a few songs, we sort of said, oh, maybe we can make a record or whatever, because we didn't really have any goal in mind at the beginning. And then, we got the Seats involved, and everyone was all pretty keen on it, management and label and whoever else. So, we just kind of kept going. It's been brewing for a few years because, we started probably 2021, I guess. Neither of us can really remember. We could probably check emails. But, we just kind of started, and then just momentum started to pick up, as time went on, and we were just kind of sending more ideas to each other.
So it started off completely remotely, kind of like when you were in the middle of COVID, I guess. So you were sending clips to each other and song ideas?
Yeah, that's right. I think we probably wrote half a dozen songs before we even were able to get in a room and actually be in the same room. So it definitely took off. The idea sort of gathered momentum entirely online. And I guess at that point, we decided it was worth someone getting on a plane.
And Bernard, I know you're a songwriting machine. So how many were you pumping out before you actually got in the same room together?
He writes 15 songs a day.
Yeah, right.
It's fucking annoying.
It was initially just like here's an idea, maybe you polish it off, see if you like it. You can add whatever you want to it. That's kind of how it went. And that was just going both ways. I guess over the years I've written a lot, and there's just like hundreds of incomplete ideas that aren't necessarily bad ones. They just didn't kind of particularly hit with what I was doing at the time. So even just a line, a lyric that just kicks you off into something that might have been an old idea, sort of thing. So there's so many different ways to put songs together, and I've always been a cannibal of my own songs. Basically, like I might be halfway through. I usually have 2 or 3 songs going at once, and then I'll be halfway through one, and then actually just meld 2 of them together to become, change the key of one to fit the other song. And I don't know, it can happen so many different ways, So, and I think you've got to be kind of convinced every time you're writing a song that it's the best song you've ever written. That's kind of got to be in the back of your mind, that it's this new idea that is worth everybody hearing. There's a lot of self-congratulation and vanity involved in this process. So, they come about lots of different ways. So I think the fact that I've probably got a lot of song ideas to call on is also a little bit of a symptom of just being at it for a long time.
I think maybe what possibly the difference between Bernard and I is that he writes enough songs that he can decide whether they fit with what he's doing at the time. Whereas if I'm writing a song, that's what I'm doing at the time. And I don't write enough songs. Like the song I'm working on is the song I'm working on, and Bernard's totally right. You're only working on it if you have this belief that it's so good it's worth your singular focus. But I think I get a bit obsessive about whatever song I'm writing, that I won't leave it alone. So there's no sort of side pile of half finished songs. There's
I think what he's saying is that he has much higher standards.
Well, I mean, I would love to see.
No, I think I'm just painfully. I don't think that's true, because I've heard all your half finished ideas, and there's no question about the standard of them. I just am a bit more obsessive, I think, about finishing whatever idea I happen to be on.
Yeah, well, we saw all the leftover Powderfinger songs in that last release. I mean, and those were all top notch. They weren't just songs that should end up on the cutting room floor or whatever. So I guess everyone's got their different way of doing it. And do you have a scrapbook? Is it old school like that, or is it a electronic sort of Dropbox where you throw in little ideas? And
we had obviously a Dropbox between us that we were sending ideas to, but I'm kind of a bit messy these days. It used to all be in a notebook for me, and tapes on 4-tracks and whatnot. But it's much easier now. You can just save everything you do, So in fact, you end up with too much. You end up with 30 versions of the same song that might have just one new shitty guitar overdub on it or whatever. But yeah, lyrically, I usually end up putting them all into a scrapbook or something.
it feels like both of you have kind of, been running parallel with both your bands for so many years, and it seems like an obvious, team up. Finally, this is, the first time you actually recorded something together. When did you guys meet for the first time? It must have been during, mid to late 90s, I'm assuming. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was 1999. Something for Kate were opening for Powderfinger on the E2K tour when after they just put out Internationalist, and we just put out Beautiful Sharks, and they took us on tour. And that was 99, 25 years ago.
What's the thing? I mean, you both celebrated your anniversaries for both those albums, I guess, looking at the dates. So, and both were bloody great albums. You did the Bowie cover during COVID. I remember that because I remember we played it quite a bit on Triple M at the time. And This album kind of seems like a continuation of that almost, like sonically.
Yeah, I mean the Bowie the Bowie and Queen cover of Under Pressure was just an acoustic guitar and both of us singing. So it's kind of back to the adage of, you know, the bones of a song are what matters. You can dress it up anyway. You can dress it up as Gary Newman or Iron Maiden or Kiss or however you want. You know what I mean? Joy Division. So it was kind of, I mean, we're both really big Bowie fans, have been forever. And there's certainly like nods to that era of Bowie from the late 70s through the mid 80s sort of thing. And I think probably for me more than for Paul, the way that he approached playing guitar, it was a more radical approach to what he has done in the past, where like with the influence of Robert Fripp and all of Bowie's guitarists who were so kind of spontaneous and radical in their approach. And for me, probably just the way I use my voice a little bit, using the lower register quite a bit more, which I've always really loved doing, but a lot of the time with the music that I was making, it's a bit harder to get the vocal out over some big guitar-y kind of racket when you're down in that lower register, and I think this time we had the songs that kind of suited that.
Yeah, because this is gonna shock a lot of people when they finally hear the album for the first time, because it is, you know, very, very different. But my God, it works for both your vocals working together. Where did you finally get in and start demoing and working together in the same room?
That was probably more like 2022. It's probably like 6 to 9 months into the idea of the project that we kind of like started getting together. Yeah, there was a lot of going back and forth, you know, like for the past kind of 2 years, it feels like we've both, you know, I'd go up to Byron, Bernard would come down to Melbourne. We'd spend 2 or 3 days just messing around. But, you know, most of it was, you know, putting ideas in the Dropbox and just bouncing them back and forth. And, you know, the funny thing is, just back to what you were saying a minute ago, is that, you know, despite the different palette and all the synthesizers and all that sort of stuff, it still feels like a rock record, like, because it's still got like a real drummer and a real bass player and real kind of angular guitars. It's just that the guitars they're not sort of doing the heavy lifting, but there's still this kind of thumping rhythm section. It was basically just like a rock band, but the synth was kind of pushed to the front. And instead of a guitar solo, it was a synth solo, but still kind of like a really live energy. So we've tried to hang on to all of that with this. It's not like it's fun of techno beats.
There's still guitar there in every song. You know, it's just not as loud as what people are accustomed to. It's maybe not as dirty in a lot of cases as well. It's like, it's just more of that. It's very driven still. All the rhythms and everything, it's very upbeat, the record overall. There's only a couple of navel-gazing moments from each of us. But, I mean, it's very much a rock record still. I mean, I guess in the kind of proselytizing of this, we've been talking about how we approach things differently, and that there's, you know, more synthesizers, keyboards and whatnot, different sort of approaches. But it's not that radically different from what we've done before in a lot of ways. I mean, hardcore fans would probably say, yes, it is. But for us, it's just an extension of what we've done already, and we're just treating things with it. We're just kind of decorating the house in a different way.
And going overseas and getting out of your local bubble, was that a bit of a help as well for you? Because I know you went to Norway initially, and I think then San Fran after that. But did that help things along as well?
Yeah, we had much bigger plans where we wanted to go and record and eat. You know, we had Buenos Aires, we had Copenhagen, New York. We had a list of places that we wanted to go and mess around, but we managed to get away with Norway and San Francisco.
Isn't it great though, where you can live, you can work in an industry where it's like, you know, I can work from anywhere in the world and claim it on tax as a work expense.
Well, yeah. I mean, the good thing is that there are incredible recording studios in some pretty amazing places, and you have to record in. There's the studio in Norway. They had this one particular synthesizer that nobody else in the world had.
And also San Francisco was really a symptom of circumstance of the guys that were going to play drums and bass on the record were friends of Paul. They were both from the area. The guy that produced the record was originally from San Fran. He lived in London. He wanted to go back there and see his family, and he was friends with the two guys that were going to play in the rhythm section. So all of these kind of events came together to help kind of determine the itinerary as well. But we did say at the beginning, like we have been saying, it's about fun and doing things that we haven't done before. And I know certainly in my case, all of the recording ideas that I've had and all those sort of things, they've been pretty well planned and executed, whereas this was just like, oh, fuck it, let's try it.
And did you have the band in your head when you were sort of demoing these songs? Did you just know straight away who you wanted on your team?
I mean, I think not straight away, but like by the time we were, sort of into the process and thinking, we're going to go and make a record, then yeah, but kind of I thought straight away then of Michael Urbano and Craig McFarland, drummer and bass player who I'd played with, and they're just such amazing musicians, and the kind of the sort of musical ballpark we were in, that kind of late 70s, early 80s, that, Gary Newman-ish, Bowie-ish sort of stuff. I had literally been on tour with those guys playing Bowie songs in the celebrating David Bowie outfit.
And when you finally got into that studio with the full band, I'm guessing that's where the magic really happens. I mean, you got all the demos and you got all the work parts, but when you're finally all clicking, I'm guessing that's when you go, okay, we're onto something here.
You have to cross your fingers a little bit that the chemistry's there, and we were just so lucky with these guys. They're weapons, absolute weapons as players, but they were just really great people as well. And the spirit of the record is kind of reflected in that we were all like this group of friends that weren't friends prior to it, that just came together for this short amount of time to make something. But they were all totally, into all the references that we had and whatnot. And also just even the studio that we recorded at in San Francisco is called 2200 Studios now. It's the Reborn record plant, which was Sammy Hagar, Jefferson Airplane, all at Prince,
Huey Lewis and News.
Yeah, it's just like there was all this legacy there that everyone was right into. And because the studio was only really reopening when we were the first ones in there. So it was kind of guerrilla style that we were doing it, because not all the normal recording processes were properly set up at the time and whatnot. So it was just a lot of things came together by fluke, and so far nothing has really turned to shit. She's pretty amazing.
I'm still amazed that it hasn't leaked out at all. Because usually you hear about some things as venues get booked and that kind of thing, that there's some news about to break. But this has been the best kept secret ever.
And I told Cleds behind them from Something for Kate.
It's a miracle that he didn't get straight onto Jamison, and yeah, Phil Jamison would have spread it far and wide. It would have been global news if Phil got his hands on it.
Well, and also I know you've been playing with Pat as well, Bernard, because I spoke to Pat a few months ago, and he was saying how you initially would just see each other at the school pickup, and then you eventually did some gigs in Byron with John Farris got involved, and before you know it, you got a super group.
Yeah, we had a band called Who's Your Daddy, and it was just all the dads from the school that happened to be musicians, basically. So and it was like a fundraiser, but it was awesome doing like Hall and Oates covers and stuff like that. It was so much fun. Yeah, and then Pat's ended up joining my solo band as the kind of touring guitar player.
And he told me the nickname that the Grinspoon guys had for you, or your band, Powderfinger, and it was the Australian Eagle Show.
Yeah.
And I think your slap back was you referred to Grinspoon as Diet Pantera,
Yeah, that's right. We tried to start a war, but we actually liked each other too much, so we couldn't really actually go into battle in the end.
It's really hard in the Oz music scene. You can't. It's not like the '80s with American rock bands where they just created that rivalry and just for publicity. But all the Aussie bands get along too well.
Do you remember when Vince Neil from Motley Crue challenging Axum to a fight, and immediately Eddie Van Halen and Sammy Hagar stepped up and said they would promote the whole thing and get the venue and put the whole. Yeah, none of that goes on anymore.
Who do you go for in that fight? You kind of hope they knock each other out, don't you? At the same time.
I can't imagine either of them being capable of a knockout clash.
Yeah.
And Paul, you all through COVID, you've been busy recording and writing stuff. I mean, we had you on Triple M doing, the webcam sort of live series, and it must have been really nice to get out of the studio though. Finally, when you both had a chance, because it just dragged on.
Totally. Look, we were just. I mean, well, yeah, we were just like everybody else. But when the lockdown ended, it was like, fuck it, yeah, let's go to Norway. Bernard was like looking around online doing research for his studio's website. And he found this recording studio in Norway and was like, oh, should we go here? I was like, fuck yeah. I don't want to bang on about the lockdown. Like, I kept busy. We were super lucky. I know a lot of people had much more challenging situations, but we were super lucky. I got to stay at home, do homeschooling with my kids. It was a lot of family time for us, and I got to keep myself busy doing stuff online, as I mentioned. And so, we were okay, and we were extremely fortunate. But yeah, when it was over, it was like, fuck yeah, get to travel the world again and make a record and, hang out with your mate and then have a good time. So it's been great. They're very, like Bernard said before, it's like time for an adventure.
You've both come through, I think, the golden era of the Australian music industry because, the 90s, I don't know what it was, but it was just a great year of rock and roll for Aussie bands. And I think it's a lot tougher these days. It's tougher for venues, tougher for promoters. We're seeing all the music festivals, particularly around you guys. You've seen the festivals drop out and die in many cases. Splendor's had a year off, and you must be kind of grateful you've had that great era to springboard off.
Oh, we were incredibly lucky in that regard. I mean, the time both of our bands were coming up was probably the peak of interest that Australians had in Australian music, and that was a combination of a lot of things. That was obviously there was a generation of bands that kind of came through that warranted attention, but also the advent of Triple J going national, helping bands like us to be able to go to Perth, for example. I mean, Powderfinger didn't go to Perth until 1996 or something. We'd been traveling everywhere else since 1991, but we just couldn't afford to go. There was less for people to do at home. They were still into going and seeing a live band on the weekend. That was very much part of the culture then, which is diminishing now in a combination of reasons, but one of them being that venues are struggling so much as well. Just the actual ability to put on a show because of so many factors, insurance and all those sorts of things as well. So we were really lucky. People were buying records, going to festivals, going to concerts all the time.
Yeah, it's the thing. I mean, you can stay home now, like even just to meet people. I mean, now you got things like Tinder or whatever. You don't have to go down to the pub to meet a girlfriend or whatever like you used to, or go and see a band. You can just never leave your house. And I think the good thing is coming off the back of COVID that people were kind of yearning for seeing music again, and I'm sure you're going to see that in October when you're back on the road. Are you going to do like a little secret show, by the way, initially for family and friends that we can get into? Is there a plan for that? Because you got all those shows lined up in October. Is there something happening?
Well, it wouldn't be a secret if
Well,
we go to it.
That's right.
But not at this stage. We haven't got any plans to do that. We've got to get together and rehearse first. That's the first thing we've got to do is we've got a band. We just have to all get in a room together now. So that's the first step. You never know though. Could be a secret show. Defenders of the Realm. That would be the secret keyword I would I would keep in mind if anyone was looking out for a secret show.
Good to know. I'll keep that in mind. I want to ask you what's going to be on the rider, by the way, because you got to think about what's going to be in that esky on this October tour.
Really thought about that yet.
I mean, what was on the Powderfinger rider, Bernie? In the absolute peak, like what did you ask for?
There was nothing too radical, actually. It was just booze, just lots of booze. I mean, I actually stopped drinking before and around shows in about, 2002 or something like that, because I just wasn't very good at singing when I'd been drinking. So, and that was kind of my main job, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was the other guys. You'd be better off asking JC about what was on the rider, because he was the one who attended to it the most assiduously, I would say.
Yeah. Coming back to the sound of the album, was it something naturally that happened, by the way, or was it something that you had an idea of? Well, let's go here.
Yeah, we sort of did. It kind of stemmed really out of the first song. It had a sequence bass line on it, which neither of us had ever used before in any song that we'd recorded. So that kind of just kicked us down this road, I guess, where we were both like, this is cool, because it doesn't sound like anything either of us have done. And that was part of the idea, was for us to not make a record that was, like a bunch of sad sack ballads or whatever. So that was an important part of it. So yeah, it was kind of by design and accident most of the time. Each of us would send the other one some kind of idea that was the beginnings of the song, I guess. And then the other one would work on it and put some weird sounds on it and send it back and say, what do you think of this? And sometimes it was, that's great. Most of the time it was, that's great. And then other times it was like, I don't know if that's going to work or whatever. So it was just that process. It's really similar to the process that I have when I write a song by myself, which is I just whittle away. I just keep playing the song and work the kinks out of it most of the time and work out what the best movements are and what the best next place to go is or whatever. And it was just, we were doing that in concert, basically, this time, but also online. It's not like you're sitting in a room together.
And then you got the challenge of figuring out, oh, hang on, can we replicate this live as well? That's the other thing.
Yeah, we didn't really think about that, to be honest. That's next week's problem when we start rehearsing, basically. But look, and it can all be done. I mean, we're going to play it all live. We're not using track or anything like that. We'll definitely be using more technology, I think, than either of us have ever used before in terms of synthesizers and sequence sounds and those sorts of things. But we're going to have real live people, playing the stuff live. So we didn't think about it when we were recording, but we recorded it with a live band. So it was entirely possible. Anyway, or at least all of the skeleton of the songs is completely possible, Yeah. We just have to work out how to arrange them.
Absolutely. Well, look, the dates are out in October, and I know most of them, I think the Brizzy one's almost on the verge of selling out. So, congratulations. Well, that's bloody great, mate.
Another date coming, I think.
And go and check out the Deluge, which is out now, the Fanning Dempsey National Park project. Actually, how did you get the name for this project, by the way? Was it something that was a piss take and it just stuck?
Totally. We called ourselves Defenders of the Realm for about a year and a half. Totally a joke. So we just wanted to come up with something as pompous as that included our names so that people had a bit of an idea that it was each of us in the band. So yeah, like it could have been plumbing company or, local swimming pool or whatever it was. But yeah, National Park was suitably pompous.
That's bloody great. Well, look, thanks so much for your time. I think Paul is there somewhere, but we might have lost him. But look, Bernard and Paul, it's been great having you on the podcast, and best of luck for the album and the road trip and everything else. And it's great to have you back. So thanks for the chat, mate.
Thanks, Becko. Cheers. Thanks for having us, mate.
It is always a great chat with Bernard Fanning and Paul Dempsey. Finally, they are recording together and have given us Fanning Dempsey National Park. The Deluge is out now, and check out the tour over the next couple of months as well. Next week, we're celebrating 20 years of the Black Betty cover by Spiderbait. And we'll chat about it with Cram from Spiderbait next week on The Rider. We'll catch you then.